Hi, you're watching and listening to another episode of The Leadership Enigma. Please do check out the YouTube channel. There are over 350 videos now for you to consume, and we are pushing out content on all the major podcast platforms, and so we're still going great guns, if that's even a phrase, who knows nowadays. So AI is everywhere. It's in every sentence, it's in every article, it's on every news bulletin. It's also on every leader's mind as regards how does it impact both opportunity and challenge that they are facing in a world that, let's be honest, has gone slightly chaotic. So as always, I need someone far wiser than me to help me with some practical tips about what should leaders and organizations really be thinking about and doing in leveraging AI, because let's be honest, it's not going anywhere. So how do we truly partner with it? How do we embed it, and how do we leverage it to maximum effect whilst also not losing sight of the human system that exists within each and every organization? So as I say, come back to me just after the break, where I have the wonderful Sam Burman, who is the global managing partner of Frontier Tech from, yes, H&S Struggles. Come back to me just after this. Hi, I'm Adam Pacifico, and welcome to The Leadership Enigma, a world-ranked, award-winning podcast that's insatiably curious as regards what leaders do, how they do it, and importantly, why. We'll delve into the human doing, but even deeper into the human being and the power of human-centered leadership to drive sustainable change. So whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, corporate executive, each week we speak to global experts, academics, rising stars, ambitious upstarts and disruptors, as together we will discover that success leaves clues. Sam, it's a huge welcome to the studio. How are you?
I'm good.
I always ask people, you and I know each other anyway, what do you think of the studio?
You wouldn't know it's here. And then when you get inside, it's incredible. It's got all the technology, all the lighting. It's relaxed, which I know suits me well.
It suits both of us really well, doesn't it, with that? Listen, you and I both work at H&S Struggles, so let me begin with you doing a better job than I did as regards the role that you have right now as regards being the global managing partner of Frontier Tech. Just help people really understand what that means and the focus.
H&S Struggles, we know as a leadership advisor, has been around since the 50s. Each professional services firm is well known for its depth and strength in particular industries and sectors. We are really well known for our depth in technology more broadly. And I think it's probably fair to say we've done a reasonably good job at catching waves. And waves that we've been catching have been often technology driven.
Yes.
So we have got a stable of Frontier Tech practices. Today, that is a collection of 5 practices, which cuts across the topic of today, AI, which I'll come back to in a second, but it's also cybersecurity. We've got crypto and digital assets. We've got health tech. And then earlier this year, we launched our government and defense tech practice. So these practices often start at kind of an incubation level to see if there is a wave to catch. And then inevitably, when the wave is there, we mobilize globally and build out from there. So it's a real differentiator for us as a firm. And I've been leading the Frontier Tech kind of ecosystem, if you will, for 5 years. And I've been with the firm for coming up to 10, actually.
Well, I mean, that's been going for some years already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you find that there is a level of interconnectedness between the 5 elements that you just described?
Absolutely. So if you contribute to one of those practices, you're often contributing to 2 or 3 in reality. So if we take AI and cyber, those 2 topics as a thematic right now are hugely intertwined. You know, the more advanced AI gets, the greater the cyber threat is for companies. So most of our colleagues can flex across those 2 areas. And then if you think about health tech and defense tech, those areas have heavy implications around AI usage and, of course, cybersecurity, given the governed regulatory environment of those 2 areas. So in short, yes. Maybe worthwhile just quickly saying that the AI practice within the Frontier Tech stable has actually been around since 2012.
Okay.
So it predates me. I joined in 2016. And we launched that practice when big data was the buzzword. Fast forward to today, the buzzword is AI.
Right.
But the fundamentals of the practice, Adam, in terms of where we spend our time, remained pretty consistent for the first decade, which was working with different companies to bring on board functional leadership talent, initially across data, then into analytics, and now into AI.
Right.
And then basically since the emergence of GPT-1, we've been spending the last 3 years augmenting that functional capability and support with actually working with the AI builders themselves. So we get access to do some pretty cool work.
And things are moving fast, aren't they? Where are we now? ChatGPT 5.0?
Yes, correct.
I think that's the latest,
That's
isn't
the
it?
latest, good knowledge.
So it sounds like an Apple phone update in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
And listen, you and I had a great conversation in Zurich. I know you were out there for an event. I was out there for a client. And we were having dinner, and you just started to talk about some things which resonated for me as very, very practical insights and steps for any leader of any business. Mm-hmm. Because whether they're small, medium, or large, whether you've got 5 people that you're leading or 55,000 people that you're leading, you can't really get away from this whole theme of AI, nor should you.
Yeah.
So I wanted us to repeat that conversation and start to unpick some of the things that you're seeing and some of the insights that you're gathering, because obviously you're working across sectors, across regions and geographies. So that level of insight I think is going to be really important. So no pressure, Sam. But let me kind of start with, what are you seeing at the moment that is really resonating with you as regards working with leaders and businesses?
Yeah.
That's quite a wide question, but kind of what's front of mind for you?
We should also add there was a few glasses of red wine in Zurich, so I'll do my very best to remember
we'll see
everything.
if we're better or worse. I don't know. Jury's out.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Well, look, I think since the launch of ChatGPT and then this sort of wave of Gen AI and AI adoption, and now we're even talking about agentic AI into the workforce, that's only like a 3-year timestamp.
Yeah.
And a huge amount has happened within that time frame, not just the technology itself, but the impact, to your point, on businesses and leaders and decisions that need to be made, decisions that, quite frankly, aren't being made. Look, I think from our purview, and as I said, we're a leadership advisor, so in terms of our focus, it's how we can help from a human capital perspective, both talent, teams, culture. I would say there's a couple of things that spring to mind that we've seen.
Yes.
If I start with what we've seen and then kind of what's been landing well. So in no particular order, I think what we've seen amongst pretty much all of our clients, at least those who are not AI native companies, is there's actually quite a lot of misalignment amongst leadership teams as to what on earth they should be doing as it relates to AI. You've got this whole sort of wave of, do I be a first mover? Do I be a fast follower?
Safer to be a fast follower.
Safer, yes, especially in this world. It's also a potentially very expensive world. Yeah. So how much do you invest in actually building capability versus buying and partnering externally?
Right.
So the first thing that we've seen is this sort of notion of lack of alignment among leadership teams. I'll give you a very basic example. Often the case we find, and we're able to do this by leveraging a few of our sort of tools that we've created to put data around this. But a lot of the time, there's actually even misalignment as to, do we even have an AI strategy across the enterprise? And if we do, is it any good? Where are we at the journey? Who owns it? What's the sponsorship like? Mm-hmm. Do we have the talent bench to implement? Then you've got questions of around governance and data quality. And so there's a lot of, dare I say it, more misalignment than alignment. So that's the first thing that we've seen over the last sort of few years. The second one is probably more of a simple one, which is, I think AI can often be treated as purely a technology program. Now, the reality is... Another technology program, totally. The reality is it's a very complex people change program where technology is a significant component, but it's part of the story. It's not the whole story.
Right.
And so, therefore, it shouldn't just come down to the CIO or the CTO to own AI. It's got to be, right across the board, because it impacts everything. And then I think I mentioned this whole not having an AI strategy. Sponsorship is also a big one. So making sure that there's sponsorship for whatever the AI strategy is for the company.
At the highest level
to cascade down into the business. If you cast our minds back a decade, maybe 12 years ago, when digital transformation was the thematic, the end sponsor of digital transformation always had to be the CEO. They were not responsible for implementing it, but they were the ultimate sponsor. In my opinion, and I think probably in Heidrich's broader opinion, that remains true with AI transformation. The CEO's got to be the ultimate sponsor.
But not the expert.
And not the executioner of the transformation program. Yeah. But it's got to start from the top. and then cascade down into the business rather than being treated kind of in a silo.
Gotcha. When you talk about some of the misalignment, have we identified what's causing it? I mean, we've got 5 demographics now working in organizations. So is that part of it? Is a lot of it, have we become immune or anesthetized slightly to just continuing change within technology or change within the world? Is there anything that you can pinpoint that's creating some of the misalignment within organizations?
Probably a relatively non-academic answer, but
I love those,
but more anecdotal.
Yep.
I think I sort of characterize elements of AI transformation as being similar to digital transformation, but the impact of AI transformation on business is significantly greater in reach and complexity than digital transformation. So I think a lot of it, Adam, is to do with the fact that most leadership teams, if they're being honest, they don't really know where to start. And so even when we're talking with some of the best companies in the world in their space, if they're feeling honest, they will probably say, look, Sam, Adam, Heidrich, we don't know where we are on that journey, and we don't have the answer. And the reality is, even the AI builders out there, all of whom we know, they don't necessarily have the answers either. So I think a lot of it is like, this is a big, complex, hugely impactful game changer, which, as you said in your introduction, it's here to stay.
Yes.
And so it's not an easy conundrum to solve, especially when you think about bringing it back down to human capital conversations, when you think about the impact on things like org design, culture, pay structure, role families, role creation, role augmentation, role displacement. It's a huge conundrum, is the right word, to solve. So I think a lot of that misalignment is because, A, it's not been done before. The closest that I can think is digital transformation, maybe cloud adoption, but this has tentacles that reach far, far further into the organization with, in my opinion, a notable bigger impact.
Yes.
And so making quick snap decisions is probably not the weapon of choice. You've got to be more thoughtful, but then you don't want to be left behind. So it's a bit of a
There's
balance.
a conundrum there, isn't there,
Yeah.
between, as you say, getting on board and not being left behind,
Yep.
but then also being maybe a little bit savvy and seeing what's working or not for other people. And I suppose things are moving so quickly, finding that window of opportunities is probably incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Nigh on impossible. So if we're thinking about who it is that you're talking to at the moment, who are you finding you're having most of the conversations with right now within organizations? Is it at the right level, or is it scattered around because, again, the organization is trying to find out where this sits?
Yeah, great question. So we've been running as a firm globally, of which I've been part of some of these. We've been running client events where the topic is AI.
Yes.
But the group of individuals we're speaking to are representative of different job families.
Right.
So we've done it with CEOs, we've done it with board members, we've done it with CFOs, chief HR officers, general counsel. So we've done it with a selection of individuals.
All very senior.
All very senior, where the topic of conversation remains consistent. And what's been really interesting is there is different questions, different concerns, different perspectives, different depths of knowledge depending on what group of people you're speaking to.
Right.
So let me give you some
more complexity,
broad brush sort of statements here. So in no particular order, when we did events with board members, much of their commentary and questions and concerns and perspectives are actually quite future focused in terms of what does this mean for my business, where I sit on the board and the industry 3, 4, 5 years down the track. So it's not blue sky, but it's bigger picture down the track. Compare that to some of the events we've done with the CFOs. CFOs were much more into the detail around just, again, I'm being slightly flippant to make the point, just tell me what AI technology I need to implement now to be more effective in my job, whether it's to do with FP&A or what have you, forecasting. You then go to general counsels. General counsels are ultimately are accountable to the board. And so much of their perspective was like, what do I need to know to be able to hold my board accountable, but also hold the leadership team, the executive committee accountable, because that relationship between board and executive committee in terms of AI responsibility has got to be...
And protect.
All singing, all dancers, and protecting. And then if you take the final example, you take the HR officer community, where I've personally probably done the most. I think us as a firm have probably done the most events with that community of people, which shouldn't surprise you given what we do for a living.
Yeah.
That community is really interesting because one of the thematics we've seen is that more and more we're hearing chief HR officers say to us, hey, Sam, hey, Adam, I'm actually being pulled in to owning parts of our AI transformation journey. And I don't know the first thing about AI.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm being pulled in by my CEO is, to my point earlier on, it's a people change program. And so they have probably the most holistic perspective and, dare I say it, requirement and need to understand more around AI, Adam, because it impacts all of their world and the remit that they're responsible for in the company, which again is people, team, and culture.
So am I right in thinking that effective use of AI or adoption of AI doesn't really sit with one person? I think you've used the phrase before, it's a team sport.
Yes.
Is that the best approach that you're seeing at the moment?
To answer your question sort of directly, totally agree.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll talk a little bit more around some of the trends we've seen more recently and emergence of new roles, one of which is the sort of the chief AI officer. Jury's out as to where that role is best placed and how it can facilitate.
How common is that though now, Sam, a chief AI officer?
Becoming more,
yeah,
for sure.
Is that an attempt at giving it to a single owner?
A little bit.
I think still play team sport, but
yes,
but having a single point of accountability.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay.
It's quite. I would compare it to, again, if we just go back to the digital transformation comparison. When digital transformation first became a thematic, again, probably 12 years ago, we then saw the emergence of this chief digital officer role.
Right.
And I remember at the time, many people saying, oh, this will be a fad. This will go away. The reality is, fast forward to 2025, we're still doing those searches. It's just the role and the requirement looks very, very different because it's evolved. So when it first came out, it was all about strategy. Fast forward to today, it's much more around commercial impact and a much broader role. I think the same will ring true with the chief AI officer. It's just the evolutionary path will be on a condensed timeline on the basis of how quick this technology is moving and how quickly the market is having to adapt.
Okay.
So to answer your question, are we seeing more chief AI officers? Yes, for sure. Why? I think in part because it gives one person a significant portion of accountability. But most of them, those roles right now are being brought in to do the strategy and help make sense of the opportunity. They absolutely should not be brought in as, okay, Adam's our new chief AI officer. We can worry about something else now because he's going to get it done. No, it's absolutely a team sport where it really, the responsibility should be shared across the executive committee.
Now, I'm intrigued as to the background or skill set of a chief AI officer.
Yeah.
Because, well, some might say it's new, but it's actually been around for a while, but it's something that's on everyone's lips now, certainly for the last 2 or 3 years. So what are you saying? Who is that person coming in who's capable of taking on that role of the chief AI officer? What kind of background or set of experiences have they normally got? I'm oversimplifying, I know,
sure,
but just kind of, who is that person? So that anyone listening or watching this can start to think about the kind of person that they may need to try and bring into the business.
Most of the chief AI officer searches that we've done are actually less about having the technical depth than you might anticipate. Certainly we've done roles where the technical muscle needs to be flexed very heavily, but most of them, Adam, I would say, are actually weighted towards having someone who, of course, has a strong foundationary knowledge of the technology, goes without saying. But actually, it's more about having a combination of, in no particular order, a strong strategic and commercial skill set for how to make AI work in the real world, if you will. So definitely got to be strategic, definitely got to be commercial. I think other things to think about that you might not necessarily put at the top of the list, but actually is you've got to be a great storyteller.
Oh, I love a good story, but tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of, you've got some people who are very optimistic about AI. You've got a fair slug of people who are very pessimistic. There is an element of scaremongering around AI. Is this going to take my job? What does it mean for my kids, coming up the ranks? Storytelling is important because you need to make AI, at least in my opinion, you need to make AI real for the employee. Not just blue sky what could come down the track, what can actually happen now. Make it real, make it palatable, make it understandable, make it accessible.
Is there an element of keeping it bite-sized as well in relation to this is what the next 3, 6, 12 months may look like or could look like for us, as opposed to, as you say, so far down the line, people are like, come on, I don't know what I'm doing next week, as opposed to 3 to 5 years down the line. Yeah,
bite-sized and palatable. And I think you've got to get that balance of being able to give people the kind of the here and now versus the tomorrow, what could come down the track.
Yeah.
So if we think about what we see as some of the best AI strategies that are in play with some of our clients right now.
Yes.
The best AI strategies that we see are the ones that are in service of the overall company strategy. So every company's got 2, 3, 4 deliverables that they want to achieve as part of their strategy.
Right.
The best AI strategies we see are facilitating the delivery of those, making it quicker, better, more effective to hit those 2, 3, 4 goals, right?
Okay.
And so by making it real is inclusive of linking it to the overall strategy. I think a lot of people, employees, myself included, I'm sure you as well, Adam, we do just want to play with the technology now. We do want to see how it can help us. A lot of that is operational, but there are bigger picture opportunities coming down the track that I also think we need to be aware of, but it's a balance.
So let me summarize as we go. So this really needs to sit at the highest level as regards sponsorship.
Yep.
Are you seeing the chief AI officer as XCOM level? Is it that senior? Or there or thereabouts, or maybe N-1?
If it's not there, then N-1.
Right.
And then probably the next question is, okay, well, where can it sit? I wouldn't be putting it into, personally, a sort of a CFO, because then it becomes more about cost.
Yeah.
We have seen it go into chief strategy officer. For big companies like big banks, it could go into the COO.
Right.
Because the COO in banks will often have IT ops and technology and data.
Right.
So that could find a
so
home
there's different
there.
homes for different businesses.
Different homes. Yeah. And we have, which you can get access to on our website, we've got a fairly healthy selection of IP on the topic of AI, which includes different ways to skin the cat when it comes to setting up your AI organization, different archetypes of chief AI officers, where you can put it in terms of reporting lines and what the trade-offs are. So maybe you can put a link.
I would have. I'll put all of that into the show notes for sure. I remember I've had a couple of people who have come in and talked about AI, especially talked about the human side of things. Greg Orme was one guest I remember who talks about the human edge. That was his book. And I'm always banging on about human-centered leadership and the human system. Have you seen a bit of a gold rush as well as regards people investing in AI, where we can have maybe big winners but also have big losers? Has that been something that's been going on in the scene?
Forgive me for not remembering the specific stats, but last year, if you looked at where the venture capital dollars went, they either went down 2 paths last year, which was AI or climate.
Right, okay.
And then climate became a dirty word. So this year it's AI and defense, obviously, because of what we're seeing here in Europe in particular. But I can't remember the specific stat, but it was somewhere in the realms of, like, in Q4 last year, call it 50% of venture capital dollars, 50% globally of venture capital dollars was going into AI.
Right.
And across the entirety of 2024, it was not a million miles away from 50%.
So it's a huge amount.
It's a huge amount of money. But to your point, there's probably going to be more losers than winners.
That was my next question. There's going to be more losers, right?
Inevitably. I think so. I would think so.
An experimental, well, it's not really experimental technology, isn't it? But people, I suppose, are experimenting with its adoption and with its implementation. Where are you seeing organizations doing this well? Or what are they doing where you say, they're doing well, they're getting traction? What are some of the things that you're seeing and hearing?
A little bit of repetition from before, plus some new material. I think first one would be, as I mentioned, having an AI strategy which is in service of the overall business strategy, having an AI strategy which all the exco are feeding into in some shape or form, coming back to the team sport piece. There is a big conundrum, the word of the day. There's a big conundrum as well around what do you buy, what do you build, where do you partner? Again, that's a conundrum that all companies have had for every evolution of technology. This one is a particularly big one to solve. And so the best advice I've heard from a great partner of ours who is a suppose, an AI adoption shop, is you should invest the money in building AI when it's affecting the top line and driving commercial output.
Yes.
Whereas you should probably just buy it off the shelf if it's to do with the bottom line and operational processes. So, but that mixture of buy, build, and partner would be one. What else are they doing? We talked about this whole notion of alignment,
yes,
which links to my earlier point. So having alignment across the board. I think also focusing on this mixture of, terrible analogy coming your way, but if you use like a shipping analogy, you've got to have your big tanker going in a direction of travel, which is all around the big ticket items in terms of path to enterprise value on big items such as the 3 to 4 business strategy topics.
Yeah.
And then speedboats that are supporting that, which are going after the smaller, more operational, more quick win opportunities. So it all comes back to this sort of balance.
Sure.
And then having leadership traits, which I've talked a little bit about, having leaders, not just a chief AI officer, but across the board, who can build that trust, who can build that accountability, who can build that storytelling. Shouldn't just be down to someone like the chief AI officer. It should.
Well, they can only do so much.
They can only do so much.
You've got to be pervasive throughout the organisation.
And I think doing something rather than nothing. I think those that we see who are try to be the leader in the pack when they're not a technology first business, that's expensive and it's hard. But the ones who are fast followers seem to be the ones who are doing well, and then making smart decisions on where you put your investment dollars, because AI can be really expensive if you make the wrong decisions.
And how fast is this going to progress, Sam? I know that you probably can't answer that question, but are you seeing things accelerating? Are you seeing things slow whilst people just take stock? Well, kind of tell me a little bit about the pace of this game right now.
I'm not sure it's going to slow down for a while. I mean, I think I'm not an AI expert on the technical side of the house, but just from what I read and listen to, like the rest of us, right now there is a huge push around providing better AI at a cheaper cost base, which is more repeatable and adoptable, but the impact is things like energy consumption. Yeah. Huge amounts of cost and energy required to actually deliver the AI to our fingertips, right? So that journey is still going. I do think we are this year just getting into the adoption curve. So I feel like the first 2 years was really like the hype curve, and now we're into the adoption curve. Yeah.
They weren't they?
Like, I cannot believe that we can do this now. So I think it's still going to keep moving. I think this year we are starting to actually see adoption. I think probably the years beforehand it was a little bit more playful, right, as opposed to this is what we could do, this is what we could do, but no real big implementations. Yeah. I also think personally, I think we'll probably see more failures than successes as it relates to AI adoption over the next couple of years, because I think there's going to be a lot of trial and error. Yes.
And a lot of learning that will come out of that as well. Are you seeing any businesses that are still slightly static, i.e. they're thinking, let me just get Copilot licenses for everybody, and there you go, that's an AI strategy? Yep. Or have we all got beyond that now and people are understanding it's a little bit more complex than that?
I think there's still a fair amount of the former. Right,
okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that's fear-based, finance-based? What do you think is behind that? Just a slight hesitancy to really throw oneself into it?
Well, I mean, depending on the business, there is the potential that AI could significantly change the rule book of not only their company, but their industry. And so it's big decisions to be made.
And their people as well, right?
And their people.
Right.
If you think about, and these are things that are happening now, so I'm not being theoretical. If you think about some examples that we've seen, this year and to a lesser extent last year, Adam, any business which has got a significant customer service component to it, that is starting to be automated. First level support. It won't be long until it's second level support capability, and it won't be long until it's third level, real deep technical capabilities being delivered through AI. Even if you think about professional services like the world that we operate in, parts of our world, parts of lawyers' world, parts of accountants' worlds,
knowledge workers,
exactly. They will ultimately get, if not if not automated, definitely augmented.
Well, let's talk about this, because there's we were talking, there's the role creation, there's the role augmentation,
yes,
and let's be honest, there's the role displacement.
Yep.
So what can you tell us about that consideration? Because that's the real human consideration piece, isn't it?
Yes.
Is, I say Greg was in there and he said to me, for God's sake, he said, don't try and compete with AI.
Yeah.
He said, but my aim is try and partner with AI. So what are you seeing, what are you hearing in relation to that creation, augmentation, or displacement piece?
Yeah, the phrase of the last sort of 12, 24 months that has been used by multiple people. Most recently, Jensen Huang out of NVIDIA used it at a conference, I think 2 weeks ago, where the phrase is, AI won't take your job. The person who knows how to leverage AI will take your job. Now, I appreciate that doesn't work for every job out there, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. And yes. Personally, I like the notion of augmentation. Maybe that's just self-survival in terms of not being automated myself and losing my job and career. But I think augmentation is perhaps an area where companies and leadership teams aren't looking into as much. They're almost jumping straight to automation and displacement.
It's a bit binary then, isn't it? It's
a little
just
binary.
In relation to this can do that, therefore you go, or this. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas I think the reality is there's a lot more that can be delivered through augmentation now versus automation. For the reasons that I mentioned, we're just getting into that adoption curve.
It really
this
impact
year.
Productivity, can't it?
Productivity, processes, routes, time to market. Everything effectively. So I think if you look at every revolution, so I'm told, because I've only been on the planet for 41 years, but if you look at
young,
if you look at the agricultural revolution, you look at the industrial revolution, you look at the, whatever you want to call it, the internet bubble, the .com evolution, at every stage, technology has been the disruptor, and at every stage, more jobs have been created as a result of the revolution.
Yes.
Now, this time might have a slightly different nuance to it because of the nature and the power of the technology, but I'm a glass half full guy in the hope that it will create a lot of jobs that don't exist today in the same way we saw that with
jobs
agricultural.
We have no idea almost what they will be.
No
but
idea.
They'll start to identify themselves as the tech.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
And then I think a lot of jobs will just be augmented with AI, which will make us ultimately better at our job because we can focus on the bigger ticket items. Everyone's got a remit, no matter what their job is. Everyone's got a remit where you've got the exciting items and the more cumbersome, less exciting items. And I think AI, as long as it's augmented in the right way, will just allow you to spend 70, 80, 90% of your time on the fun stuff.
Lisa Bodell says to me, and I'm writing an article with her, she said it would get rid of all the time sucks.
Totally.
And I kind of like that as a phrase.
Yeah,
and Thomas, it's all coming back to me now, Sam, which is why I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Then Thomas Pramuzik was also a guest on the show, and he said AI for some was like a microwave meal.
Yeah.
It will give you what you want, but it's perhaps not the healthiest right now. Don't forget the human element. But he also said something to me that really resonated. And he said, what AI will do, and I say this to leaders at events, is that AI will give you back more time. Mm-hmm. The question for leaders now is, what will you do with that time? Mm-hmm. And that's where the human piece comes in. So what are you seeing or hearing in your own experience as regards the adoption or augmentation of AI and the ability to do the things that we as humans can do and AI can't? That curiosity, that innovation, that creativity, that collaboration.
Yes.
Are you seeing any evidence of that within certain businesses or clients at the moment, that people are getting time to be more human and in some ways leverage the human system, let's be honest, that is the lifeblood of every business right now? Yeah,
I think honestly a little bit.
Yeah.
And this comes back to my earlier point around this year. I think it's probably fair to say this year is the first year where actually AI adoption is starting to happen for real at an enterprise level across industries.
Right.
And so actually the kind of the successful case studies, it's too early to see. So I would hazard an educated guess from what we hear from clients. We're starting to see that. And where we're starting to see it is where the operational processes are being able to be leveraged, more repeatable through AI, where the human can come out of doing the kind of more cumbersome work and start to do the more high high value items. But I would say it's more of a little bit versus a lot, because we're still in our first year of actually adopting this technology across enterprise versus just using it for small use cases and proof of concepts.
So I want to ask you a question about kind of opportunity versus risk. And I know we spoke, again, this was back in Zurich, and you talked about that AI presents CEOs with a choice between being a multiplier or seeing it as a cost reduction exercise.
Yeah.
Well, what are you seeing in relation to, again, it's a little bit binary, but what are you seeing on that playing field?
I was at a conference, so I can't take credit for this analogy, but I was at a conference maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and the CEO of an AI native company was up on stage, and he was the one who shared this perspective, which, to your point, it is binary, and I don't think it's this simple. But effectively what he was saying is, 2025 has been the year of AI adoption, of course, the beginning thereof, but also the emergence of agentic.
Right.
And once agentic gets, miles on the clock, which will happen quickly, just given the nature of the snowball effect.
Just help people understand when you say agentic, just if anyone's listening or watching and thinking, what do you mean by that?
So Gen AI being, let's just think about ChatGPT, the ability to ask an app something and it gives you a very credible and thoughtful answer, and it's becoming better and better.
Yep.
So it's kind of, it's more transactional, if you will, albeit there's
it's a great research assistant as well.
They do have a deep research functionality where the level of capability is at like PhD student level.
Have you used it yet?
I have. Very good.
I've not used it yet, but I spoke to someone earlier today who said it's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll come on to that. But
it is amazing. And agentic AI is a fancy way of effectively saying having AI agents being able to carry out tasks for you in the background because you've given it instructions of what you want it to do, and it goes away and it does it.
Right. Okay.
And you could leverage hundreds of different AI agents, which are in your role and in your personal life, actually.
Yeah.
And
that's where people start to get a little bit nervous, don't they?
A little bit nervous.
With regards, it will start to do things that perhaps humans have ordinarily done.
Absolutely. Like, I won't go down this rabbit hole, but I think the future of online shopping could look very different with agentic AI, because you can basically, if you will, program an AI agent to go and find you the best pair of Nike Air Force Ones in this price bracket, and it will just order it for you because it's got all of your details. You're able to make that transaction in a safe and secure way. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. So that will be agentic AI. And then you've got the next step will be what they call AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is where the AI capability and smarts are at the same level as a human. And that means that they're able to action that intelligence in a way that a human would.
Now, this is the bit that frightens a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or when I've read certain articles, I read my Goddard's book, Scary Smart, as well.
Oh, yeah.
In relation to, and for many people, the jury is out in relation to utopia, dystopia.
Yes.
Which which way are we going? No one knows. How far away from the kind of the articles you're reading or research you're doing, how far away are we from that? I mean, it's in our lifetime?
100%. But again, from what I'm reading, like the rest of us,
no one knows.
I'm far removed from it. But I would say, going back to this sort of example of this CEO on stage, talking about these two examples, which I'll come to in a second, he was using the 5 to 10 year window.
Yeah.
Most people that I listen to on a podcast or read an article of, which your listeners all have access to as well, whether that's a Sam Altman or an Elon or another Jensen, most of them are putting that in the 5 to 10 year time horizon to get to AGI. And then what comes after that is what they call super intelligence, where this is the worry of the second coming of the Terminator, where AI is more intelligent than humans, and that's IQ, EQ, and the ability to actually action it. Versus just simple question and answer that we have with like a ChatGPT, for example. So what was the example that he gave?
Yes. Sorry, I pulled you off there.
No, fine. So what he was saying was, like, if you buy into the sentiment that we will achieve AGI in our lifetime, and for him, it was in a 5 to 10 year range, which is what I typically hear other very informed CEOs saying.
Yes.
you could see CEOs of the future, inverted commas, in the short term, having one of two choices.
Yeah.
So option one is you take the AGI opportunity to multiply your output of your current workforce.
Right.
So you don't shrink your workforce. You keep the workforce exactly as it is today,
Yes.
but you augment it. And I'm sure there's going to be some automation within that as well. But you augmentate that workforce. So therefore, the output and deliverables of that workforce become exponentially better and stronger and more effective because of the use of AGI. So you keep your cost base effectively the same, if anything, a little bit more expensive to pay for the technology, but your output, both top and bottom line, is going to be a significant boost. So the multiplier effect.
Yes.
Option two, he was sort of saying, like, you could go the other route, which is you could actually drastically reduce your workforce, so lower your OPEX in terms of headcount, and then give that remaining workforce AGI, and you could more marginally improve capacity, capability, and output versus leapfrogging in option one. So those are the two options that he gave. Keep the workforce as it is, pump it with AGI, and watch the business exponentially grow. Option two, use the advantages of AI to lower the workforce headcount, and then still improve on your previous setup, but more marginally versus step change leapfrog.
So I'm assuming it's just going to be up to the individual and the business and the sector and the circumstances they find themselves in relation to which direction they go. Or did he offer any insight in relation to who would do what, when, and how?
He didn't really offer the insight. And I think the reality is it will come down to, if they're a PLC, a publicly traded company, it will come down to the board. If they're a private company with private capital, it will come down to the investors.
Right.
Do they want to go down the multiplier effect route, or do they want to go down the kind of cost cut and then marginal improvements? But to your point, it was a binary example, but it was an example to prove the point, or at least table the point that you could use AGI in two different ways at a business level in terms of, do you go big, option one, or do you keep ticking along and moving at a more marginal clip for option two?
And I always say, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the leader's choice as regards which direction they want to get. So let's pull this together, Sam. What are some of the kind of the top tips then that you are offering potentially for leadership teams as they navigate 2025 and the adoption of AI? Kind of your top two or three things that they need to be doing or looking out for or listening out for.
Well, look,
no pressure again.
No pressure again, yeah. And I probably gave you a different answer over drinks in Zurich. But I think getting the alignment. I know that might sound simple, but it's so important with everything, at a leadership team level, whether it's strategic, whether it's finance, whether it's anything else, you've got to have that alignment. So the first thing that I'd focus on is making sure that as a leadership team, you've got alignment around what is our AI strategy and how are we going to deliver it and what are we trying to achieve.
Right.
Second thing I would think about is, once you've got that alignment, having an AI strategy which is much more in service of the overall business strategy, because that will get you a quicker route to enterprise value versus just focusing on some interesting but proof of concepts where
test cases.
You're not going to move the needle as much. And I think the third thing is really thinking, bringing it back to the human impact, thinking about the importance as an executive leadership team of storytelling, of making the story palatable, understandable, building trust with your workforce around this topic, which is polarizing as a topic and scary. So building trust and making sure that, I suppose, as a workforce, you can't share with your workforce everything that you're looking to do as an executive committee, but being as open as possible as to how you're going to leverage the technology for the better. And for some people, that will be potentially having to repackage their roles and pivot their careers. And for some, they might be displace their role. So I don't think we should shy away from that. but I'm much more of an optimist in how we use it.
Well, I love the fact that you're an optimist. And it's not always the responsibility of the CEO or the executive team. Let's be honest, there are hundreds of thousands of people who work in these businesses, and each and every one of us has got to be accountable for our own career as well.
Yep.
So what really is the advice to anyone listening or watching who is not leading the business, but they're working within the business? What could or should we be doing? What are you doing, Sam, as regards trying to adopt it or keep up to date or just, I don't know, what should people, is it just curiosity? Is it just, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm probably annoying my leadership team with all the daily and
weekly
emails and Slack messages they get.
But in a way that's really good, because I see those, but it's keeping people up to date. In some ways you're summarizing some of the insights that are coming in, and so you're becoming a single point of contact for us within the business to keep abreast with things, which is really. So what else could or should people be doing, because they've got to be accountable for their own careers?
I'll answer that question in the same way that I talk to my wife about this, or my family members, or my friends who perhaps aren't as technically as literate. I think actually you've hit the nail on the head. Curiosity.
Okay.
I think curiosity is king as it relates to AI. Play with the technology. You can get access to all this technology now, and you don't have to pay any money. You might not get the full fat version, but play with ChatGPT, play with Perplexity. I think there's some great podcasts out there.
You're on one now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you beat me to it. I think there's some great podcasts out there where you can either choose to go deep in a deep dive format, long form format, or kind of more sort of short form nugget based. But I think there is a lot to try and consume, and no one can consume all of it. It's totally impossible.
Isn't it?
But I think playing with the technology, because now it's becoming at our fingertips, we don't have to pay for anything. And I've mentioned a few of them. There's some podcasts that you can listen to, which I think just listening is helpful. And then there's reading some articles about this. Again, there's more than you can shake a fist at. But I think just trying to garner as much information as possible that you're willing to, or your brain can take, to have a perspective.
Will you help me pull together or curate some links or lists that we can actually put within the show notes? So at least people, there's a starter. I know we've at Hydric, we've got some collateral we can share, but also you're referencing maybe some places to go for articles or some podcasts. Let's put some of those links in as well. So at least we get someone watching or listening off the grid.
Yeah.
And they can start to, as you say, be curious and think, well, hang on, how do I fit into this? So help me with that. But I interrupted you.
No, it's right. I was just going to say, so I'm fortunate enough to sit on our leadership team at Hydric. And I think what's great about our leadership team is that we're having these open conversations. And it's not just me banging the drum. But as time has gone past, and when I say time, I mean the last 24 months, more of our leadership team are really leaning into this topic. None of us have the answers. None of us have done this before, but we're talking about it. We're playing around with optionality and ideas. We're trialing and we're testing. And are we doing everything right? No, absolutely not. Could we move quicker? For sure. But we're having the conversation. For those of your listeners who don't sit on the leadership team, I think the curiosity is key, but then bringing up that curiosity with their manager, with their leadership teams, to say, have you thought about this? Have you read about this? Have you played with this technology? Because the reality is,
best idea wins, right?
And most of the key adopters and fast movers on adoption are going to be those of your listeners who are in their 20s, 30s and 40s, who potentially aren't in leadership positions. But if they're not having the conversation with their management team and leadership team around, have you heard about, are we trialing this? What are we doing? You're almost not holding them accountable as a leadership team and really pushing their thinking.
Well, they'll be taking over.
Team sport.
Exactly. And also that's the new guard. They'll be coming in and taking over the business.
Correct.
And running it. And as you say, agentic AI will be here. So in many ways, they've got to get ready for what it is that they'll be inheriting in some way, shape or form.
Absolutely.
Sam, I always ask this question to finish up with so many people, kind of what's the best piece of leadership advice that you've given or received?
That's a great question.
I know, right?
I wish you'd forewarned me.
That's okay. I get lots of people who then go, let me think about that. But that's good. So kind of the best piece of leadership advice that you've ever given or received, or certainly whatever is front of mind for you.
And this maybe comes from an amalgamation of leaders. But it's this whole notion of, I think as we're all coming up the career path, whether you're in call it a corporate company or more of a startup growth company, most of us are all trying to climb that ladder and get to a position that we feel we want to be at.
Yes.
And I think there's an element of, and I certainly learned this maybe the hard way in terms of it took me longer to get there, I don't know, but I think there's this notion of actually being yourself and authentic goes a long, long way. You've got to have the capability, sure. You've got to have the knowledge, sure. But I think trying to be something that you're not in a kind of to be considered professional or corporate or to try and enable you to climb that ladder faster, that didn't work for me. I actually found personally that my career ladder moved quicker in the right direction when I just started trusting myself, owning what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and being authentic versus trying to be something that I'm not.
So here's a cracker of a question. What's next for Sam?
I got enough on my plate.
Have you? Okay,
yeah,
well,
I think work-wise, I've got enough on my plate.
And you've got little ones as well.
I've got little ones.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe I'll ask ChatGPT on the way home, and it will give me an answer.
What's next for Sam? 5.0 might give you a great answer.
Yeah.
Listen, Sam, thanks so much for taking the time to come into the studio. I appreciate it. I know we're just really touching on the surface of some of these, so we'll try and give as much detail, as much information and useful links to everyone in the show notes as well. And then let me ask you the question, how do people get connected or contact in with you so that they can carry on the conversation or get you involved in their conversation? Because let's be honest, lots of organizations are grappling with this, so how do they get hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn, but then on hydric.com, we've got a dedicated section on the website which we can put in one of your links around AI, and that can link them into me and the team more broadly.
Perfect.
If they want to have a discussion about anything we've discussed today or anything else related to the topic.
Lovely. Or football.
That's
another episode altogether. But
yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Right,
Cheers.
Cheers.
Join us again next week for more curiosity and insight with the Leadership Enigma. We'd love to hear your comments on today's show as well as suggestions for future topics and guests. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn or visit us at www.leadersenigma.com. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on all your major podcast platforms and on our dedicated YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining the community.